A pleasant day to everyone. Again, this is Mr. Ariel D. Manlusok, the director of the ADMRC. Now we are on the fifth part of our presentation on the Book 1, Criminal Law. And this is about the implementation of the revised penal code in relation to special penal laws. No? So we will be discussing some important provision of the revised penal code pertaining to the application of the provision of the revised penal code, specifically the provision of Article 5 and Article 10. Okay? So to start with, we have here Article 5, the duty of the court in connection with acts which should be repressed but which are not covered by the law and in cases of excessive penalties. So, Article 5 provides for two situations. Okay, let's begin with the first situation. Under paragraph 1, it states, whenever a court has knowledge of any act which it may deem proper to repress and which is not punishable by law, it shall render the proper decision and shall report to the chief executive through the Department of Justice the reason which induced the court to believe that said act should be made the subject of a legislation. So this is the first part. Okay, so for a better understanding, let's have a scenario. Okay, now here is an example of a scenario or illustration that will best explain the first paragraph. Okay. I think everyone is aware of O'Neill de Guzman, okay? The person behind the so-called I love you virus or love bug. So when O'Neill de Guzman created the virus, it causes a lot of damages, no, or disruption to operations of businesses and other people. Okay, so because of that, O'Neill de Guzman was charged. He was arrested and charged, but when the judge, okay, handles the case, finds out that there is no appropriate law to apply for the said act. No? Wala pong batas na magsasabing krimen ang ginawa ni O'Neill de Guzman, no, when he created the love bug. So what should the court do? So pursuant to paragraph 1 of Article 5, the court must render the proper decision. And after that, if he thinks that that situation calls for a legislation, he must write to the president through the secretary of justice so that that situation can be a subject of legislation by our Congress. Okay, so in that case, since there is no law that punish the act of O'Neill de Guzman, we have the principle of nullum crimen, nulla pena sine lege, which means there is no crime when there is no law punishing such an act. So definitely, what is the proper decision of the court is to dismiss the case. Okay, that's why O'Neill was not convicted for a charge that is filed against him because simply there was no law, no, that punishes his act. But because of him, that's the reason why Republic Act 8792, known as the e-commerce law, was created by our Congress, and it is now the very law that punishes the act of hacking, cracking, and web defacement. Okay, so this is a very clear example of paragraph 1 of Article 5. Now, what about the second situation? Okay, but before that, by the way, if you notice, the same scenario happens in the case of Hayden Co. and Katrina Halili. If you remember, I hope, definitely you know, because that is a sensational case, no? That Hayden Co. Recorded their sexual actions or acts, but without his knowledge, it was being uploaded by somebody or whoever it is. So Katrina filed a case against Hayden Co., but the court said there is no specific provision of law applicable to what Hayden Co. did. So what the court should do is to dismiss the case. But then again, because of that, Republic Act 9995 was created by our Congress, and that is the law that punishes the act of what? Of taking photos or videos, uploading it, sharing it, no, to others, and recording it without the consent of the persons involved. Okay, the title of the law is called the Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act. Now let's proceed to the paragraph 2. There you are. The paragraph 2 of Article 5 provides what? That in the same way, the court shall also submit to the president or to the chief executive through the DOJ such a statement as may be deemed proper without suspending the execution of a sentence when a strict enforcement of the provision of this code will result in the imposition of a clearly what? Excessive penalty. So this time the situation is what? Is the existence of a very clearly excessive penalty. Okay? Taking into consideration the degree of malice or the criminal intention and the injury caused by the offense. Now, for clearer understanding, again, I made an illustration here based on actual cases. Okay? War. Okay. A girl was charged of murder for killing her uncle. So why it was murder? Because the killing took place while the uncle is sleeping. Okay. During the trial, it shows that the reason for the killing was due to previous sexual abuses. So it's not only once, no? Take note, twice that the uncle raped the girl. Okay. The judge makes a decision based on the law, convicting the woman for murder. Why? Because that is the law. Okay? There is a tendency of a qualifying aggravating circumstances, which is treachery. So, the judge has no option but to convict the woman for a case of murder. It is not a case of self-defense. Why? Because the killing did not occur during the assault, no? During the sexual abuses. The killing was executed separately from the acts of sexual abuses. Okay? So there is no self-defense. But if you analyze the situation, there is one mitigating circumstances here. And what is that? The vindication of grave offense. What does it mean? May mabigat na atraso yung uncle doon sa babae o sa pamangkin. Okay? Kaya lang, alam din natin na sila'y magkamag-anak. And relationship in crimes against person is an aggravating circumstances. So if the judge will weigh it, there is one mitigating and there is one aggravating, applying the principle, okay? It is only balance, which means the judge cannot appreciate the mitigating because it is offset by an aggravating circumstances. But considering the gravity of the penalty for murder and the fact that the girl was twice sexually abused, the judge makes a recommendation. So he made the decision according to the law. But, okay, by his appreciation of the facts, he made a recommendation to the president requesting that the woman be given a pardon, and which the president has the power based on his what? Executive clemency power. So the woman was convicted for murder, but by virtue of the power of the president, the woman was granted pardon. So that is the clear illustration of the paragraph 2. What about the provision of Article 10? The provision of Article 10 discusses about offenses that is not subject of the provision of this code. What is that? If there will be cases, and this definitely it will happen, no, that there will be crimes that are not covered by the revised penal code, and in the later part or future time, it was declared punishable by a special law. What shall be the rule of our court? Okay, the law is clear. The general rule is what? The revised penal code provisions are supplementary to the special law. What does it mean? We have to give priority to the special law. And in case that there is a lacking provision, then the revised penal code will supplement what is lacking. For example, in cases of penalty, okay, our Congress may create a law, but the penalty can be derived from the revised penal code still. So in which case, we follow the substantial provision of the special law, but the penalty can be taken from the revised because it is what? Provided by the law. Okay? Or it is lacking on the provision of the special law. But there are two exemptions. And what are the exemptions? One, where the special law specifically provides. Ano pong ibig sabihin nun? Kapag yung bagong batas po o special law, it provides na siya yung supplementary sa revised penal code. Anong ibig sabihin? We still follow the revised penal code, and what is lacking will be supplemented by the special law. Okay? A good example of this, number one exemption, is the anti-rape law, the Republic Act 8353. It did not repeal, it did not revise the penal law or the revise about rape, but it supplement the RPC. That's why rape now is divided into two general category: rape through sexual intercourse, and the one supplement by the Republic Act 8353, which is the rape through sexual assault. Okay? The second exemption is when the provision of the RPC are impossible of applications. Okay? Either by express provision or by necessary implication. So what does it mean? So if the provision of the RPC cannot be applied, then it should not be applied at all. You concentrate on the special law. And a good example of that is in case of the Republic Act 9165, no? The Comprehensive Dangerous Drug Act, which actually totally repealed the provision of the revised concerning prohibited drugs. Now, we don't have prohibited drugs. The term used in the law is dangerous drugs. Okay? And RA 9165 provides for its own penalty. So that is an example of that. Okay? And lastly, to give you a little rules about the rule on construction, there are two basic rules that you should know. One, when there is a conflict between the provision of general law and a specific or special law, the special law shall prevail. And what is an example? What the law provides under Article 10. Revised Penal Code is a general law. Other special laws created are specific laws. So therefore, we give preference to the special law. Second, between an old law and a new law. If there is no conflict, we enforce both of them. But if there is a conflict, we follow the new law. Why? Because the new law is the latest creation of the Congress. It is more rational and more practical because it is the one that is more adaptable to the current situation. Okay? So those are the important things that we have to know about certain provision of the revised with regard to the application of the revised penal code. And take note, we cannot make revised and special law as a complex crime. No, they are separate. It cannot be complex. Complex crime is applicable to the revised if it is purely revised. Okay? So that's it for today. Continue to subscribe and view. Thank you and God bless. Once more, this is Mr. Manlusok. Keep safe in times of that we are still in pandemic, and take care of your kids and people who are vulnerable. Okay? So continue to also check and protect your mental health. Okay? God bless you and see you for the next presentation.